Yo, what's good with y'all, man? And today we back at again with another video, man. And today we're gonna be reacting to true Hooters horror story. Yeah, let's check it out.
I woke up on the wrong side of the bed one morning to what sounded like raccoons digging through my trash can. I armed myself with a broomstick and ran outside in my pajamas, but when I got there, whatever it was had already run off. They left my trash can knocked over, with all the bags split open, and there was trash strewn all over the place. That certainly didn't put me in a good mood, but I had to pick it up as quickly as I could. I had a double shift at work that day, noon to close. Had to get a shower and everything too, because a Hooters girl doesn't earn tips if she smells like trash. My whole day at work was awful. We had more creeps in the restaurant than usual, which is saying something. Many hungry eyes were waiting for me. The nastiest creeps too, relentless and persistent, and most were too broke to tip me more than a few quarters. But the worst part was, Carl, the fry cook who was working the same shift as me, stared at me more than any customer, with these sad, pathetic eyes. I couldn't even catch a break in the kitchen. Carl was one of the most obese men I've ever seen. His gut was so large he struggled to reach past it to flip the patties on the griddle. He never seemed to clean his work clothes either, because there wasn't a spot left on his apron that didn't have a week's-old grease stain on it. You'd expect a guy like him to smack 3 orders of food on his lunch breaks, but he never had the time to eat at work. He was always frantically writing in his worn-out notebook during his breaks, glancing up at me whenever I was around, like he knew I was going to pass by. He never stopped scribbling until it was time for him to go back to grilling. Slowly but surely the hours passed, and the restaurant finally closed for the night. All that was left was to clean up and lock up before leaving. Pretty soon, Carl and I were the only ones left. I thoroughly mopped the restaurant floor to avoid him as he cleaned the kitchen. The last place left was the men's bathroom. I always save it for last. It's kind of a vile place. I took a deep breath before entering the stench within and started mopping underneath the urinals.
I swear they intentionally piss on the floor.
Just to add on to the terrible day I was having, I started hearing suspicious noises again, rustling from the handicap stall, like someone was scraping their feet on the floor. I shoved the mop into the bucket, yelled impatiently,
"Is someone still in here? We're closed."
No answer. I walked up to the handicap stall and tried to look inside, but the door was locked.
"Whoever's in there, you have to leave. We're closed for the night."
I started banging on the door, letting out all the frustrations of the day. I gave up not very long after. I was getting tired of this. Then, I heard footsteps from the other side and saw a pair of muddy shoes beneath the door. I jolted back right as the door flew open, revealing a man who looked like he'd lived in a swamp his whole life and had starved for most of it. I recognized him as a customer from earlier in the day. "It's nice to see you're in such a rush to see me again, baby doll, but you don't have to worry. We're alone now. We've got lots of time." I grabbed the mop for a lack of a better weapon of defense, waving the dripping mess of tangled, filth-soaked cloth in his face.
"Forget all that. We're closed. Get out of here."
That's not gonna stop me, sweetheart. He grabbed the head of the mop and yanked it out of my hands in a flash. "I'm not leaving here without you by my side. Why don't you come over to my place for the night?"
"Beat it, creep."
"Oh, you've got attitude, don't you? Don't worry, I'll take care of that." I made a break for the door, but he lunged at me and grabbed my arm. I
Hit him with the uppercut. Hit him with that uppercut.
He
Hit him.
struggled for a moment before the fry cook finally burst into the bathroom. I'd never been so glad to see him in my life. Carl took the creep by the shoulders and ripped him away from me like a rag doll. Carl slammed the creep against the wall and pinned him up. What's going on here?
He's a creep, Carl. Throw him out already.
It's just a misunderstanding, sir. Carl stared him down for an uncomfortable length of time. Then he whispered something in the creep's ear that I couldn't make out. The creep nodded readily. Then Carl set him down. Immediately, it seemed like all the tension had been diffused. The creep smiled non-offensively, then calmly walked out and left the store.
How did you do that without roughing him up?
Carl grinned from ear to ear like a big goof.
I don't trust that.
I just told him what
No.
would happen.
That's Cap. He's up to
Well,
something.
thank you very much, Carl. I appreciate it.
You're always welcome, Selena. I picked up the mop again, wanting to just finish closing so I could finally go home. But Carl lingered. Hey, since I saved you and all, do you think you'd like to go out on a date with me?
Not the time, Carl. Not the time.
That's okay. I'll find a good time. Then he left, thankfully, and I got back to mopping. When I finally got home that night,
Is
I
that the
was
Family Guy?
utterly exhausted. I was seriously thinking of quitting
Yo,
Hooters. The meager tips didn't make up for all the interactions with sickos and freaks, and they were starting to make me paranoid. I changed back into my pajamas, made some hot
Bro,
chocolate,
that is
and
the
got
Family
comfortable on the
Guy.
couch to binge watch my
They
favorite
got the whole
show,
setup.
all
That's
in an
dope.
effort to just calm down and unwind from the events of the day. Too bad I didn't have any roommates I could vent to. It wasn't long before my moment of peace was ruined. I heard something rummaging through my trash can again. I didn't bother getting anything to chase them off this time. I figured my screams of rage would be enough to scare anything away. But when I opened my door, it wasn't a raccoon. It was the same creep from before, holding my trash can
no,
over his
look at
head
this
and
creep,
dumping
man.
everything onto the ground. When he saw me, he threw the empty can at me. I stumbled back
Dang,
through the
bro,
doorway
what the
in a
heck?
daze.
What the?
I told you, didn't I? You should have gone home with me, and none of this would have happened. He stepped into my home undaunted. He laughed maniacally and inched his way closer to me. My mind raced. What should I do? Should I get a knife? Should I scream? I tripped and fell to the ground.
How did you
crawling
trip? Like, what did you
backwards
trip
towards
on?
the kitchen where I could
you-
maybe get a
so you
proper
tripped on
weapon
air?
to defend myself. But then, another silhouette appeared behind the
Who's
creep,
that?
swallowing him in the shadows.
Oh, that's
and socked him in the back of the skull. The creep clambered forward and looked back in shock. Why'd you... This wasn't part of the deal! I then realized who it was. It was Carl. He approached the creep without a word and grabbed him by the neck. Carl relentlessly pummeled the creep with his fists. There was no contest. Carl
Oh, man,
was a super
chill,
heavyweight,
Carl.
no-holds-barred cage match with a featherweight stickman.
Bro, why is he hitting him with that 16-piece combo?
I watched in absolute shock as Carl let loose until the creep was totally limp. Carl then finally let him go, and just by the sound of the body made as it collided with the floor, I knew that Carl had beaten him to death. Carl then turned to me, his face half lit by the street light shining through the wide open door. Will you go on a date with me now?
What? No! Carl! What have you done?
I climbed to my feet, ready to outrun him if I needed to. What have I done? Really, I saved you twice. Is that not good enough for you?
Not the second
I know
time.
everything about you. What do you know about me? He said this while grabbing his notebook out from his pocket. He darted it to me while waiting for a response. I didn't take my eyes off Carl when I reached down slowly for the notebook. Suddenly, I realized why he was always writing in it. He was writing about me. He recorded my every movement, my habits, everyone I talked to. Did he really tell that guy to show up just so he could act like my knight? You better understand. I'm not leaving here without
Someone
you
called
by my
911. This
side.
man's a creep, bro. What is he? So this whole time, he was the creep. Man, that was crazy. We got a bootleg Peter Griffin. That was a creep, bro. That was crazy. Hey, that was a dope reference. Horror Sorts. That Family Guy reference. That was dope. I like how y'all did. That was really dope. But yeah, man, that's crazy, bro. Man, that's a crazy plot twist. Like here I'm thinking that he was that Chris or whatever Charles. I say Chris. Charles was like the knight of strong, like the hero, like the good guy that saved her. But turns out bootleg Peter Griffin was the creep the whole time. Like that's crazy, man. But anyway, man, that's it, man, for the video, man. Look, stay tuned for the next video I'm gonna drop for y'all, man. And you know what I'm saying? Y'all just stay tuned. Peace.